I never thought I'd be writing something like this on a relationship advice forum, but here I am. Maybe if I tell my story, someone out there can tell me what the hell I should do. Or just listen because honestly, I'm already sick of my own thoughts spinning in circles. It all started a few weeks ago. My wedding is in just a few days, literally this Saturday. I was excited, nervous, the usual jumble of feelings. That's until I decided to check my fiancé's phone. I know, trust issues, right? But I'd noticed he was acting weird lately, more secretive, more distant, and I just needed to see if he was hiding something. I didn't think it would be anything terrible. I expected maybe some innocent texts, a late-night call or two. What I found, though, was anything but innocent. Hidden deep in his messages was a string of cryptic texts exchanged with his best man. His best man, Jake. They'd been sneaking around behind my back, and the messages. They were full of flirtatious remarks, inside jokes that cut way too deep, and even plans to meet up later during the rehearsal dinner. I swear I could feel my stomach drop all the way to my feet. The beginning of the message thread was innocuous, but then it took a turn. Between jokes and teasing, I could see the shift more intimate. My fiancé writing, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and Jake replying, "Me neither, it's been too long." I saw the way they signed off some messages, "yours, always," that kind of thing, not exactly friend speak, and the really sickening part, the photos. I found one where Jake was holding a glass of wine, smirking at the camera, and right beside it, a screenshot of a flirtatious message that read, "You make me feel alive again." I felt like the room spun for a second. My hands went cold and my heart hammered so loud I thought it might burst through my chest. How could I have missed this? How could I not see the signs? The little things. They're always there, whispering, but I was too blind or maybe too trusting to notice. It's not just that they were cheating. It's the fact that they lied, manipulated, and kept secrets from me right up until I was supposed to walk down the aisle. I do cry easily, but I sat there on the edge of the bed, staring at that phone, feeling a rage bubble up I hadn't known I could feel. I could feel my palms slick with sweat, my stomach clenched so tight I thought I'd throw up. I wanted to smash that phone into a million pieces, but I knew I needed to keep it all together. I needed a plan. I couldn't just confront them blindly. Not yet. I had to be smart, because I wasn't just angry, I was betrayed. The worst part, I've been with this guy for 5 years. He's the one I trusted to build a life with. And Jake, my best man, I trusted him too. Now I don't know who I was more naive about, that's what hurts the most. The betrayal runs so deep it feels like a knife twisting each time I think about it. And the wedding day, it's just days away and I'm standing here trying to decide what to do next. Do I confront them? Do I just walk away? Or do I burn everything to the ground? I guess I'm just looking for some advice. Because right now I feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump into darkness I can't see the bottom of. I never wanted any of this. All I ever wanted was happiness, trust, a little bit of love. Now I'm left with nothing but shattered pieces and a betrayal I can't ignore anymore. So, yeah, this is where I'm at. If anyone out there has been through something similar, I could really use some guidance. Or just someone to tell me what to do before I lose my mind altogether. I spent the next couple of days spinning in a fog of disbelief and anger. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed those messages, those intimate exchanges that now felt like a punch to my gut. My mind kept going back to the feeling of betrayal, as if I'd been slapped across the face with a cold, wet rag. I started noticing the little things, how he was extra cautious about his phone, always keeping it close, hiding the screen when I peeked at it. The late-night work calls that suddenly became more frequent. I'd catch him glancing nervously at his phone, brushing it off when I asked who he was texting. The way his eyes darted, the way his smile never quite reached his eyes anymore. It was all there, staring me in the face, and I couldn't ignore it. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for ignoring the signs because I wanted to believe in him, in us. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Maybe confronting him directly would blow everything up before I had a plan. Maybe I needed some proof, something concrete I could hold against him. I decided I'd find that proof somehow, without tipping him off that I knew. I started looking for more evidence, screenshots I could take, saved messages that might reveal more. But I also knew I couldn't let this situation fester. The wedding was so close, and I had to decide whether I was walking into this union with secrets I couldn't ignore or if I was walking away for good. One evening, I sat in my apartment, the faint glow of the sunset filtering through the blinds. My stomach felt hollow, and I kept replaying that message thread in my head. I couldn't believe I'd almost married someone who had lied to me for so long. I clutched my phone tighter, my fingers trembling. That's when I got a text, not from him but from an unknown number. My heart jumped into my throat. It read, "I know what you saw. Don't trust him. I can help if you want." My throat dried up. My first instinct was panic. Who was this? Was it some sick prank or was it someone trying to help me? I hesitated, then typed back, "Who is this?" Silence. Then after a few minutes, another message. "Your fiancé and Jake. They're not who you think they are. Meet me tomorrow behind the old warehouse downtown. I have more proof." My mind raced. Part of me wanted to ignore it, brush it off as some stupid joke. But the other part, the one that still believed in the truth, wanted to see what this person had to say. I knew I had to be careful. Whoever this was, they could be dangerous or they might be telling the truth. Either way, I couldn't let this slip away. I was finally starting to see a way out, and it wasn't pretty. Night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around what I'd do if this person was legit. I imagined confronting my fiancé, blasting him with everything I'd uncovered. I pictured myself grabbing his phone, pulling out every message, demanding answers. I even thought about just walking away right then and there, leaving that guy standing there, stunned. But something in me told me I needed proof, undeniable proof, before I made my move. So I decided I'd go to that meeting. I didn't tell anyone, no friends, no family. I couldn't risk tipping him off. I just knew I had to see this through and find out what was really going on. My hands were clammy, my heart pounding all day. I kept feeling the weight of the upcoming wedding like a guillotine hanging over my head. When I finally stepped outside the apartment, the air was thick and cool. The city was eerily quiet. I approached the old warehouse behind the industrial district, where the moonlight barely reached through the cracks. I didn't see anyone at first, but then I spotted a figure leaning against the wall, hood pulled low. "Are you the one who messaged me?" asked, voice trembling. The figure nodded. "Yeah, I've got everything you need, but you have to be careful, they're dangerous." The voice was low, gravelly, but steady. I felt a cold sweat break out. "Show me." They reached into their pocket, pulling out a small USB drive. "All the messages, all the proof. It's more than you've seen so far, but you need to decide what's your next move." My stomach clenched. I looked at that tiny drive, knowing it could change everything, or blow everything up in my face. Either way, I was done trusting blindly. I took a deep breath and nodded. I want it all. The stranger handed me the USB. As I pocketed it, I realized my life was about to change forever. The wedding was just hours away, and now I had everything I needed to finally take control, or so I thought. Next part. The drive felt heavy in my pocket, like a brick I was dragging behind me. My hands were trembling as I made my way home. The streets were dark and quiet, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Every step I took felt like one closer to either liberation or total disaster. When I finally got back to my apartment, I locked the door behind me, then sat down heavily on the couch, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. I plugged the USB into my laptop, my eyes fixed on the blinking cursor. I hesitated for a second. Part of me still wanted to believe this was all a mistake, maybe some elaborate prank. But deep down, I knew better. I knew I was holding something that could shatter everything I'd built with him. Click. The files opened up and I started scrolling through the first batch of messages. They confirmed everything: the flirtatious texts, the secret plans, the little inside jokes that no one else would get. My stomach twisted as I saw the timestamps. They had been sneaking around during rehearsal dinners, late nights, and who knew what else. The worst part, they were so casual, so natural in their tone. Like they didn't think I'd ever find out. There were also pictures, screenshots of messages, photos of him with Jake side by side. My mind raced to process it all. I felt sick, but also strangely relieved. Now I knew the truth. I had the evidence clear as day. This wasn't just a suspicion, it was undeniable. I sat there for hours going through every file, every message, trying to absorb what I'd discovered. My eyes burned from staring at the screen, but I couldn't stop. My stomach was in knots, a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and cold, hard resolve. I had to do something, something decisive. I couldn't marry a man who was capable of this betrayal, not after I'd been so loyal, so trusting. Finally, I closed the laptop slowly, my fingers tingling with adrenaline. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I'd confront them both. I'd walk into that wedding not as the bride, but as someone who finally saw the truth and refused to be a victim anymore. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let it be destroyed by two people who thought they could get away with it. But first, I needed a plan. I couldn't just storm in and blast them with accusations. No, I had to be smart. I needed to catch them in the act, maybe record it so I had undeniable proof. I wanted to strip away their excuses and their lies to make sure there was no way they could spin this in their favor. As I lay back on the couch, the weight of what I was about to do pressed down on me like a stone. My mind kept replaying the images, the texts, the secret smiles I'd never seen. I felt a cold sweat on my forehead and a strange sense of calm washed over me. The kind that only comes when you know you're about to take back what's yours. My phone buzzed. A message. I hesitated before I looked at it. It was from the same unknown number. "Be ready, tonight's the night." My heart clenched again, so this wasn't over, not yet. I took a deep breath, clenched my fists, and whispered to myself, "It ends tomorrow, one way or another." This was it. I was about to turn the table on both of them. I could already feel the rush of adrenaline, the fire in my chest. I finally had everything I needed. Now I just had to wait for the right moment to strike, because once I did, there was no going back. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was done being the victim. Next part. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, every possible scenario, every way they might try to lie their way out of it. I kept replaying what I'd seen, what I'd heard, and what I was about to do. The anticipation was almost worse than the betrayal itself. I kept checking my phone, waiting for that message to tell me it was time. It felt like I was waiting for a verdict that could change everything. At around midnight, my phone finally buzzed. The message was simple: "Meet me at the warehouse, now." I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my coat, pocketed the USB drive, and headed out into the cold night. The streets were eerily silent, except for the faint hum of distant cars and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The warehouse was dark and abandoned-looking, just as the stranger had described. I approached carefully, my boots echoing softly on the cracked pavement. I saw a figure leaning against the wall just like before. This time I could see their face clearly, illuminated by a flickering street lamp. "You came," the stranger said softly, voice low but steady. "Of course," I replied, my voice tight. "Show me what you have." They handed me a second USB, smaller than the first. "This one has the full archive, all the messages, calls, everything. You can expose them if you want, or do whatever you think is best." I looked at the drive, feeling the weight of it in my hand. I was finally holding the proof I'd been seeking. My stomach clenched, but I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd been carrying this secret around for too long and now I was finally free. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. The stranger looked away, eyes shadowed. "Because I saw what they did to you, and I won't let them get away with it." I nodded, knowing I had to act fast. I turned to leave, but stopped, my mind racing. I realized that confronting him immediately might not be the smartest move. I needed a plan, a way to catch him in the act, to make sure I had irrefutable evidence before I blew everything up. Back in my apartment, I spent the rest of the night preparing. I set up my phone to record, placed the USB in my bag, and rehearsed what I'd say. I knew I wouldn't be able to hold back once I saw him, once I knew for sure. I wanted to make sure I'd get every second on tape, every word, every gesture. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache, but my mind was clear. Today was the day I'd finally face them. I arrived at the venue early, pretending to be calm, but inside I was a mess of nerves. My fingers trembled as I checked the recordings I'd made overnight, making sure everything was ready. Then I saw him walk in, Jake, looking smug like he owned the place. My fiancé was close behind, his face a mask of nervous anticipation. I took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. They didn't see me at first. I waited until they were alone, then stepped forward, voice cold and steady. "Thought you'd get away with it, huh?" They froze. Jake's eyes widened and my fiancé's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, trying to sound innocent. "Oh, I think you know." "Exactly what I'm talking about," I said, pulling out the USB. "Here's the proof, every message, every secret plan. You two are done." Jake's jaw clenched. "You're crazy. You don't have anything." "Oh, I have it all," I shot back, my voice trembling with rage. "And I'm not going to marry someone who's been lying and sneaking around behind my back. Not anymore." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. They looked at each other, then back at me. The truth was written all over their faces: guilt, panic, and a sickening realization that their cover was blown. I walked away, feeling a strange mixture of triumph and heartbreak. I'd finally exposed them, and I knew I'd be walking out of there free. I had the power now. No more secrets, no more lies. As I headed out, I felt my stomach tighten with a mixture of relief and sadness. I had won, but at what cost? My trust was shattered. My future was uncertain. But I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let anyone hurt me like that again. Next part. The fallout hit me like a freight train. I didn't expect to feel so hollow after finally exposing them, but that's exactly what happened. I handed over the USB to the venue's manager, told him to keep it safe, and then I turned my back on both of them for good. The looks they shot me, Jake's sneer, my fiancé's wide eyes, still haunted me. I knew I'd shattered their plans, but honestly, I felt like I'd only begun to piece myself back together. The wedding that day was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it felt like walking through a minefield. I was surrounded by friends, family, people I'd trusted, yet all I could think about was how betrayed I'd been. My chest was tight, my stomach twisty. I kept my face composed, but inside I was boiling. I hadn't told anyone what I'd found, not yet. I just wanted to get through it, get away from the scene, and focus on what mattered me. When the ceremony started, I felt numb, waiting for the moment when I'd make my escape. I watched him, my fiancé, standing at the altar, his face pale, his eyes flicking nervously. I kept telling myself that I was better off without him, but the ache. Deep. Right before they said "I do," I slipped out of my chair quietly, unnoticed. I needed to get to my car and just drive, somewhere far away. I didn't want to be near that mess anymore. I got into my car, started the engine, and looked at my phone. The message from the stranger flashed on my screen again. "It's done. They won't hurt you anymore." Relief flooded my chest, but so did anger. I'd been played, used, lied to, by the man I was supposed to marry and by my supposed best friend. As I drove away, I called a friend, someone I trusted explicitly. I told her everything, from the messages to the meeting last night, the USB drives, the confrontation. When I finished, she was silent for a moment, then said, "You did the right thing. You finally saw what they really are, and you took back control." That was the moment I realized I had been living in a fantasy, pretending everything was perfect. I'd been so eager to believe in the fairy tale that I ignored all the red flags. Now I felt raw, exposed, but somehow stronger. I finally saw how deep the deception ran, and I was done being naive. In the days that followed, I cut ties with my ex-fiancé and Jake, blocked their numbers, unfriended them everywhere. I couldn't stand the thought of seeing their faces, hearing their lies. My trust had been shattered, but I knew I had to rebuild, slowly, carefully. I didn't want to carry that pain around forever, but I also didn't want to pretend it didn't hurt. Looking back, I realize how much I ignored the signs. The late-night calls, the nervous glances, the way he'd suddenly beeline for his phone. I always told myself I was paranoid, that I was overthinking. Turns out I was just too scared to face the truth. But truth always finds a way of surfacing, doesn't it? So what now? I'm just trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what I need to heal. I've started therapy, trying to understand how I let myself be so blind. I know I won't trust easily again, but I also know I'm stronger than I thought. I don't want this betrayal to define me, but I'm never going to forget it either. My advice to anyone reading this: trust your instincts, no matter how small they seem. Ignoring red flags doesn't make them disappear. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, and you deserve to be with someone who respects and values you, not someone hiding secret messages and sneaking around. What I learned most of all: never settle for leftovers, never ignore the signs, and never, ever let someone betray you without consequences. I may have lost a lot, but I gained something even more important: myself. It's been a few weeks since everything fell apart, and honestly, I'm still trying to process it all. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a strange mix of relief and bitterness. I never expected to find myself here, standing in the ruins of what I thought was my future. But looking back now, I can see a lot of things more clearly, things I ignored or dismissed because I didn't want to believe the worst. The most important lesson I've learned is that trusting your gut isn't just some cliché, it's vital. I kept brushing off subtle signs: his nervousness around his phone, the late-night secrecy, the way Jake always seemed a little too close. I've realized that red flags don't always come screaming, they often whisper first, and if you don't listen, they become shouts. I finally handed over the keys to my apartment and made arrangements to stay with a friend for a while. I didn't want to be alone with all these feelings or with a place that now felt like a trap. I needed distance, clarity. That same night, I took the USB drives to the local police station, explained everything, and handed over the evidence I'd collected. I don't need to see their faces in court, but I wanted to make sure the truth was documented. No one should get away with hiding behind lies and betrayal. The pain is still there, but it's different now. It's not raw and overwhelming. It's more like a faint echo, a reminder of what I've survived. I've started focusing on myself, career, my friends, even picking up hobbies I'd let slip away. I don't want to let this experience define me, but I won't pretend it didn't change me either. I'm more cautious now, but also more aware of what I deserve. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, it's this: you are stronger than you think. You don't have to stay in a situation where your trust is broken, where your boundaries are ignored. Recognize the red flags early and don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to say no, to shut the door on the pain and to start over. I still feel the sting sometimes, those moments when the betrayal hits anew for no reason at all. But I remind myself that I'm not powerless. I took back my control piece by piece. I found my voice and I used it. That's something no one can take from me. Today, I'm choosing to move forward, not because I've forgotten the pain, but because I refuse to let it have the final word. I'm rebuilding my life, one honest step at a time. The trust I lost can be earned again, but only with someone who truly respects me, someone who understands that honesty and loyalty aren't optional. So if you're reading this and feeling broken, know this: you are not alone. And even in your darkest moments, there's a way out. Trust yourself enough to see the truth, even if it hurts, because in the end, the only way to heal is to face it head on. And I did. I'm still here, standing stronger than I was yesterday because I refused to be a victim. I chose to be my own hero. And I know now that I'm capable of way more than I ever believed. That's the truth I want anyone to take away from my story. Your worth isn't measured by how much someone else destroys it. It's measured by how fiercely you fight to get it back.